Are you looking to start a podcast in 2025? Perfect. Then let's take a look at what your best choices may be for gear. And we're going to start out with some of the entry-level options, including one really cool one that came out in late 2024. Now, of course, I'm going to have all of these listed below as affiliate links. Clicking on them does go to support the channel in case you're interested. Not much has changed here, though. The PodMic USB is still the best option for starting a solo podcast and having all of the bells and whistles. It's a great combo mic that can be used as a USB mic if you're just starting out. And you also get all those fun little Rode add-ons like Aphex for getting the perfect sound on your voice. But also, you have that XLR for when you decide to start upgrading your gear to include an interface. Really, this is a great all-in-one to start out with. However, if you're looking at starting something up for more than one microphone, well, right now, the Focusrite Vocaster 2 is still an amazing purchase. Now, I'm not a massive fan of the Scarlett mics they like to bundle with these, or the headphones either, but again, it's your money, you do you. I will have to say, I do have one of these Vocasters coming in. I want to revisit it to see what it looks like in 2025. Stay tuned for that and get subscribed so you don't miss it. But when you look at hooking this thing up, you can get really far with just a couple SM58s, which can be flipped on the used market pretty easily if you do decide to upgrade later on. As for those headphones, if you're strapped, just buy some cheap earbuds to start. To be honest, for podcast monitoring, that's really all you need at first, and you can get something like the over-ear headphones later on down the line. That Vocaster, though, gives you plenty to play with and get started, including DSP effects like EQ and compression, so you can get the best out of your voice with minimal post-processing. And since they're so cheap, you might want to jump on them soon. I'm not exactly sure how long these things are going to be on the market. Now, if you're into a multi-person podcast up to 4, there is really only one choice for cheap, and that is still the PodTrack P4. I did a video earlier this year to find out if it's still viable in 2024, and spoiler alert, it was very much so. It isn't a lot of flash, you're not going to blow anyone away, but fully featured for what you need, and the price to performance is about as good as you're going to get in audio. Add to that some SM58s and you got yourself a show. And lastly, in the entry-level options, there's a new entrant, and you have to stay with me here, the new Rode Wireless Micro. These are simple little lav mics that interface with your phone and give you fantastic audio that lets you record multi-track on your phone. And add to that the ability to get video on 2 people. Just makes this a fantastic way to get your content up and running for pretty cheap. And the best thing about this is that it won't suffer for quality just for the sake of cheap. Those things could be a game changer. Now, as we move one step up, this is a bit of a wasteland of options here. There really does seem to be a divide in the market right now for podcasting gear. You have the super cheap, and then the next stage up that makes your wallet stay up at night worrying. But don't you worry, there are still options here. Now, first of all, I do need to say that for most people, that PodTrack P4 or Vocaster could and should fill your needs until your podcast is making money. And I can even lay that same statement at the feet of this, the PodMic USB. There's no reason why you would need more. No one will know or care if you just learn how to produce your show properly. Oh, but I can see that lust in your eyes. And I really hope it's for more gear, because otherwise it's weird. But the best option here is last generation podcast gear. You can still get a lot of it brand new, so it's a bit of a win-win. The only one I would say to avoid is the PodTrack P8. That is, unless you can get it ridiculously cheap. Right now, I'm seeing it for around $249 US, which I would say would be about the most you should pay. There's nothing against it, but the other options out there are just better in every respect, including specs. Now, the OG Rodecaster Pro is still a beast in 2024, especially if you aren't rolling with SM7Bs. But one of my favorites to recommend is still the Tascam Mixcast 4. You can get this thing for around $300 on sale, and it is worth it. This was the only unit that came even close to challenging the first gen Rodecaster Pro. And it even came with a DAW. For a startup, That's one hell of a deal. Now, the other options here are just basically other boards or interfaces like I have here with the Lewitt Connect 6 that I'm plugged into. Really though, going super cheap really isn't worth it if the quality of the product can be heard in the audio. That PodTrack P4 is still your best bet even if you're cutting corners. Trust me. Again, with mics too, basically going to sound like a broken record. There's nothing wrong with an SM58. If you want to splurge a bit, the OG Pod mic is great if you have some DSP effects built into the board you're buying, which is most podcast boards and several interfaces, I might add. If you do have a bit more money though, I would suggest mics like the SE Dynacaster lineup of mics. They seem to come in every shade of gray, and even a cheaper model with the gain booster if you're rocking one of those older boards. It's a pretty sweet deal. And of course, you have the PodMic USB. As for headphones, I'm going to basically say the entry-level Audio-Technica series is one of your best bets, all the way up to these, the Rode NTH 100s. I absolutely love these, and these are basically going to be all of my recommendations throughout all of these. So if you can, the NTH 100 are some fantastic podcasting headphones. Okay, so 2 years in, Rode still owns a crown for the top-of-the-line podcast solutions. There's no argument here. There's still nothing better for a multi-person podcast than the Rodecaster Pro 2, and even the Rodecaster Duo as the premium choice for a dual mic setup. You pair that with a couple pod mics you're choosing, and you have a fantastic setup. Again, it's a premium setup. These interfaces have yet to be replaced as the best of the best, and really that just comes down to the ecosystem that Rode is building out. From wireless to mics to vocal effect chains, with the Rodecaster in the middle of it all. All these things are powerful little tools. Just to set out to prove it, Dylan and I actually recorded a studio quality song with a Rodecaster Duo. I mean, it's not the intended usage of the board, but frankly, it just goes to show you how it can handle even complicated workflows. So your podcast is probably a safe bet to be run through a Rodecaster Pro 2 or a Duo. Now, not to mention with the add-on of virtual channels, Rode is literally just answering all the requests and emails that come at them. I should also point out as well, with one of their recent updates, even that headphone latency that some people were complaining about has gotten better. From my measurements, I think it got down to around 7 milliseconds from the 11 that it was before. And of course, speaking of ecosystem, you got the new Rodecaster Video joining the fray. Now it's possible to have a full-on video podcast production as well, especially if you expand a Rodecaster Video with a Duo or a Pro 2 to get more audio channels and more physical control over your audio. Now, talking about all this, I do also have to throw Mackie into the mix with the DLZ Creator and the DLZ Creator XS. And for an interface that actually does everything that a Rodecaster Pro 2 does, or at least close to, yeah, the Mackie's about as close as it's going to get at this level. Now, as for microphones, the sky's the limit. Though remember that SM7Bs are finicky to get sounding right, so if you're just starting out, they might not be the best mics for you. But realistically, I love the RE320. The RE20 is awesome. They're all great sounding mics from Electro Voice. The Dynacaster from SE, also great. Find one that gives you a happy and you like the style of it. Just go with it. Now, the only thing I would maybe mention with this ultimate package is the pricing. These toys don't come cheap, so it might be wise to actually be making money on your content before you wade into this pool, or at least know that you're about to be making money on it. Otherwise, you might find yourself with a bit of purchase regret. Now, the next question is, should I do this same list but for voiceover? Let me know down below. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.